Hello, guys, and welcome to a very special episode where I am joined with Cody as we talk about our top 10 favourite Best Picture winners. The Oscars is soon, and yesterday I talked to Justin about our Oscar picks. Cody was meant to join us for the episode, but I thought I'd do a bonus episode with him as we talk our top 10 favourite Best Picture winners. How are you doing, Cody?
Pretty good. How are you, Robbie? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to have you back. You looking forward to the Oscars?
I mean, I will watch them. I do love the Oscars, but I also don't think that they ultimately matter, nor does anyone care what wins an Oscar because even if you look at lists of the greatest films of all time, a lot of those films either weren't nominated or weren't recognized. But it's a celebration of film, and sometimes it helps people see movies they otherwise wouldn't watch.
Yeah, that's why I like the Oscars. And sometimes when you say people, oh, it's been nominated for an Oscar, some people are like, yeah, but I don't really give a crap about the Oscars. Or other people are like, oh, if it's been nominated for an Oscar, maybe I should check it out.
Well, that's how I got to go see Licorice Pizza yesterday, is because it got nominated for an Oscar. So they decided to make it at a wider release in across the country. Because I live in a smaller area, and we don't always get the. It's kind of weird to say that a P.T. Anderson is a small movie, but I guess it is for this area because not a lot of people want to go see a coming of age story about 1970s Hollywood.
Yeah. I liked it right up until the end.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done without that, but overall, it's a very good movie. Not his best, but not his worst either.
No, it's not. It's definitely better than Hard Eight, and definitely better than Hard Eight.
An Inherent Vice.
Oh, thousand% Inherent Vice. It's better than. So let's get on to it with Best Picture winners. Would you like to reveal your number 10?
Sure. My number 10 is kind of fits for the theme of the movie. It's kind of the ultimate underdog story. It's the ultimate Cinderella story, not only for the themes of the movies, but kind of the films it was up against, because it was up against movies like Network and Taxi Driver and All the President's Men. And this movie not only gave birth to a film franchise, but also a career for Sylvester Stallone, and that's going to be Rocky.
Good choice. Why'd you like Rocky?
Like I said, I mean, you would think, well, why did this win Best Picture over these other amazing films? And I think
Yes, I agree with you there. I prefer Network and Taxi Driver a lot to Rocky.
But I think the themes of the movie resonate with people. It's like,
Yes, I see your aspect. It's just a shame that the films just got really sillier after that one.
Yeah, I mean, there probably shouldn't have been all those sequels, but people love them. But yeah, this first film is brilliant, and it is just as good as those other three films. That's just a really stacked year for Best Picture. And a lot of times they are going to go with the feel-good movie. But, it doesn't have, he doesn't win in the end of the movie, so...
No, it's about trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready for my number 10?
Let's do it.
My number 10 is a war epic. It's my favourite Best Picture winner from the 80s. It's Oliver Stone's Platoon.
Yeah,
I like this movie a lot because Oliver Stone was a former Vietnam veteran, and he tells his experience through these fictional characters and the terror and the horror they have to go through. It may not be Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, but with Platoon, it's more its own thing. And I do love this movie, even though I do prefer Apocalypse Now. I think this movie is fantastic, awesome, and really shows the realism of the Vietnam War, and that's why it's my number 10.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's very realistic. It's got a lot of recognizable actors now. that may not have been recognizable at the time. It's
Yes, Willem Dafoe steals the show.
Oh, absolutely. And, Tom Berenger's frightening. You've got good performances from Keith David and John C. McGinley.
And Johnny Depp.
Yeah, you got to blink or you miss him, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really well-made movie. I agree. I think Apocalypse Now is the better one, but the Academy didn't think so, I guess.
Yes. I can picture that. Would you like to do your number 9?
Sure. My number 9 is actually nominated for Best Picture this year. And I think it's one of the best movie musicals ever put on film. There are definitely problematic things with this original that I think Steven Spielberg corrected, but that doesn't stop just how brilliantly it is shot and presented in widescreen Technicolor format, and that's Robert Wise's adaptation of Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim's West Side Story.
Yes, which I plan to watch at some point because a new one comes on to Disney Plus, and I'm thinking about doing an old versus new for the websites. I've not done one of them before.
Oh, you've never done reviewed the original versus the remake?
No, never done it before, so I might try and experiment with that one.
I don't think the remake's gonna win, but it is kind of interesting that it is also up for Best Picture. Actually, there are 3 remakes, technically, I guess, up for Best Picture this year.
Nightmare Alley and Coda.
Oh, well, not Coda, but I guess technically Dune is sort of a remake.
Oh, that's 4 then.
Yeah. What is the other one?
Coda's a remake of a French movie.
Oh, it is? I didn't know that. Okay, so 4 remakes. Wow.
Well, that's most of the highest grossing films nowadays.
Besides comic book movies and sequels, yeah.
Yeah, literally. You ready for my number 9?
Yeah.
This is a movie I've spoken to you about quite a lot of times. It's from Guillermo del Toro, and it's The Shape of Water.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, majestic film. I think it perfectly blends the majesty and budget he had with his American films, but plays more with the personal themes of his Spanish films. Yeah. I still slightly prefer Pan's Labyrinth over Shape of Water, but this is a great movie.
Yeah, but Nightmare Alley couldn't be anything like The Shape of Water. That's what disappointed me about.
Well, I mean, apples and oranges, they're kind of 2 different types of movies, but yeah, I'm just shocked that there was enough love out there to get it into the Best Picture race.
Yeah, definitely, because I did like the second half of the movie more than the first half.
I just liked how he constructed it from beginning to end. I think he just did a really fantastic job. I haven't seen the original, so I don't know how much.
I would like to watch it
to see what's different or how it's similar.
Yeah. We still need to talk about Del Toro's films, like ranking them. I still need to catch up with them. Plus, I want to wait till Pinocchio's out now.
Oh, okay. Now you got to wait till Pinocchio's out to do all. That's not till December, I think.
Yeah, which is a good. Which will be fun. Yeah, you read. What's your number 8?
All right. My number 8 is a genre that was largely ignored from the Academy for most of its popularity in Hollywood. And it comes from one of its biggest stars who I think he retextualized what a hero or a protagonist in this genre could be. It kind of disappeared from the good guy to more of an anti-hero. And a lot of people, you could probably say this could have been his last movie. Like, he could have retired here and people would have been like, oh, it's a great way to end your career. But he's continued to make movies, and I think he'll continue to make movies till he dies. Some of them will be brilliant, some of them will be just fine, and some of them probably won't be good at all. But this is probably his best film, and it's a masterpiece, and that's Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven.
Smart move. That would be one of my honorable mentions. But you know what's really funny? My number 8 is another Clint Eastwood movie.
Oh, yeah, it's also a very good movie that I don't think people thought was the front runner until like it was one of those movies that came out like right at the end of Oscar season, and just people fell in love with it.
Yeah, I do like Unforgiven because it's one of the last of its kind with the Western era. And it is slow, but you're just looking at that beautiful cinematography and hearing that score and seeing all them fantastic performances. And yeah, that's why it's an honorable mention. I'd like to do a full review of it this year for its 30th.
Did you know that Gene Hackman almost didn't want to do the movie because he was tired of playing villains? Which is funny because he ended up getting an Oscar for this movie for Best Supporting Actor.
I couldn't see anybody else in that role besides Gene Hackman.
And as a Brit, do you feel bad when he berades Sir Richard Harris, or kind of shows Richard Harris's true colors?
Not really. I kind of had a suspicion about Richard Harris from the moment he steps foot in the film, but he steals the show in that movie.
He is great. His little segments on the train and all up until it kind of crashes for him, because he's just not as good of a gunfighter as Gene Hackman.
Yeah, sometimes I do think what's the point in his character?
Oh, wasn't he hired by the prostitutes?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
You ready for my number 8?
Yes.
This
You've
is
already
movie directed by Clint Eastwood. It's a boxing movie and it's $1 Million Baby. One of the saddest films I've ever seen in my life, but I love it because of how the story really goes through. It doesn't really like stop. It just keeps going forward and forward and forward. It never falls back on itself. It really possesses itself well and just gives us a beautiful story about tragedy, even though she wanted to be the best. She had a fall from grace, and it just sadly ends from that.
Yeah. I love this movie too, and I got a little bragging rights here. You know the actress that plays Hilary Swank's mom?
Margot Martindale.
Yes, I actually got to act beside her in a play, a production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof at my junior college, because she went to the same junior college. She's a local there in Jacksonville, Texas.
Nice.
And she came back and did a performance as Big Mama, because she had played the role on Broadway and actually been nominated for a Tony, and they got her to come back and do a performance.
She's a good actress.
Yeah. She's really cool too. Like, she was funny.
So she's a lot nicer than her character in this movie then.
Yeah, or at least she was to us while we were rehearsing and performing on stage.
Lovely. So what's your number 7?
My number 7, I suspect, is much higher on your list. It is probably the greatest film trilogy ever put on cinema. It's a landmark I don't think we'll ever see again that's been done. Yeah. And now the country of New Zealand is just known for being Hobbitland, but Peter Jackson knocked it out of the park. I don't know why they didn't recognize the other 2 films in this trilogy, because it's kind of hard to say which one's better than the other, because it's really just a 10-hour movie, honestly. But yeah, Return of the King, one of the few films to sweep the Academy Awards. I don't think we're ever going to see that again. I don't think a movie's ever going to win 11 or 12 categories again. I don't think that's going to happen.
So you can't see Power of the Dog winning everything then?
I don't think Power of the Dog's going to win everything. I think it's definitely going to win Best Director. It's got a pretty good chance at Best Picture and a few other things. But I don't think it's guaranteed for actor or supporting actress. So Oh, it's going to win supporting actor for sure.
Oh, definitely, because he was fantastic, Cody Smith McPhee.
But I think Zimmer's going to beat
Johnny Greenwood.
Johnny Greenwood for score.
Yes. Yes, he is. He is. I'll talk to you more about Return of the King in a bit, because that's a little bit higher on my list.
Yeah, I assume.
But my number 7 is Inurita's Birdman. I love this movie. This was probably the first ever one-shot mainstream movies. And what a movie it is, because when I first watched it, I would not know how they would pull it off. But they pulled it off so well in this movie. And the drum beat just really helps elevate the tone. But what really makes Birdman is the performances. You've got Michael Keaton, Naomi Watts, Emma Stone, Edward Norton, Zach Galifianakis, Amy Ryan, Andrea Riseborough. They're all fantastic in it. What a wow ensemble cast. And Inurita's directing just makes this movie the way how he tells Libetsky how to man this camera, how he tries to get this film edited as much as possible, and the performances he gets out of this cast. Wow. This is probably one of the best films of the last 10 years to win Best Picture, and that's why it's my number 7.
I do like this movie quite a bit. I was more of Team Boyhood this year at the Oscars when that came out, but I do really like the cinematography and the look of trying to make it look like one shot. My biggest thing I love about this movie is Michael Keaton, because he's kind of playing a somewhat twisted version of himself, because Michael Keaton, of course, was Batman, and so he's sort of playing a similar type of actor. And of course, you also got Edward Norton kind of taking a jab at himself for being this difficult actor to work with, who takes his work a little too seriously. So it's a fun. I know some people who don't like this movie, but I know definitely if you're a theater person, you probably really like Birdman.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Birdman because it's unique and it's just one of the best films ever made in the last 10 years. Yeah, but there is one movie from the 2010s I think was better, but I'll go on to that in a bit. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is the most recent picture winner on my list. Is a movie that completely blown me away. I love the structure of it because it starts out as one genre and becomes a completely different genre at the end of the second act as we get into the third act of the film. It's a brilliant director. I've loved some of his previous films. I can't wait to see what he does with his next film. He blew everyone away and threw everybody off, because I don't think anyone thought he was going to win all of those major awards, winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and of course winning Best International Film. It's Bong Joon-ho's Parasite.
I don't think he thought he was going to win them other 3 awards.
I didn't think he was going to win picture and director. I thought they were going to either give him director and 1917 was going to win Best Picture, or they were going to give Mendes Best Director and Parasite was going to win Best Picture.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were going to do both.
International movie to win Best Picture.
Yeah, which is great because it's wild that it took over 90 years before the Academy finally gave one. They have nominated a few international films here or there, but it's always a very rare occasion. So it was quite amazing that they finally said, okay, nope, this is brilliant. And I felt like it's one of the few cases where they were like, yeah, this is clearly the best picture.
Yeah, I've seen Parasite a couple of times. I do enjoy it, but it's not one of my favorite movies. Yeah, but it is my favorite Bong Joon-ho movie, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, because I would probably say Memories of a Murder, and then probably Snowpiercer would be right under it.
Those are my top 3. Those are my top 3. So what's your number? So I need to say my number 6 now, don't I?
Yes. Yes.
My number 6 is a movie that rarely wins for this specific genre. This is a very popular genre of movies, which we like to watch around October. And my number 6 is the won all 5 Academy Awards, the top 5, and it's Silence of the Lambs. I love this movie because of Anthony and Jodie's performances and chemistry. Obviously, the script is just solid because it never gets slow or boring. It's entertaining all the way through, directed perfectly, and I can see why it was the best film of 1991 because it's my favorite film from that year, and it had to be on this list.
It's a brilliant movie. It's going to show up a little bit higher on my list.
Nice. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is probably at the height of this lead actor's career as a leading man in Hollywood, even though he is not a traditional leading man, but for some reason he kind of reigned the film industry for a good 11 years. And it's just a really good movie that kind of touches on a serious subject matter and the treatment of how the mentally ill were treated at such time. And it's also a really great book. But yeah, it's got great performances from Jack Nicholson and Louise Fletcher, who both won Academy Awards. This is also another movie that won all top 5 of the main categories: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. It's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
One of my favorites. That would probably be 11th.
Yeah,
that would probably be 11th. Yeah, I like Jack Nicholson, and I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's a good movie. I've seen it I've seen it quite a lot, and yeah, I always enjoy it all the way through, despite having a bittersweet ending.
Yeah, and you also got performances from actors I don't think were quite known yet, like Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd and Brad Dourif.
Yes, and now they're like 3 really big actors.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You ready for my number 5?
Sure, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is one of only 2 sequels ever to win this award. This movie is probably one of the best sequels ever written because it's not just a sequel, it's a prequel as well, and it's Godfather Part 2.
Oh, absolutely. Again, gonna be higher up on my list, but yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I actually prefer this movie to The Godfather because of how well it's written. And I just love De Niro's bits because De Niro he wasn't as big at the time, and this is his standout role. This is the role that helped him conquer on Hollywood, and obviously you have Coppola really showing that this is his like film series, and he directs both these 2 movies as well. But I think his directing was so much better in this movie.
He actually won Best Director for this one. He did not win Best Director for the original.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't win director for both.
Well, I used to think that was weird, not only for who wins, but who's nominated. But I now have learned that, like, everybody gets to vote on Best Picture for the everyone votes for the winners, but for the nominations, everyone gets to vote for the nominations for Best Picture, but the rest of the categories are their respected fields. So that's why you'll see like a director nomination for somebody sometimes where the film isn't nominated.
Yeah. So what's your number 4?
My number 4, you've already mentioned it. It is another film that has swept the Academy Awards for the major categories. It is definitely not a genre that not only is hardly awarded, it's hardly recognized. You guys did a show on like the 6 films that you count for this genre, but it is absolutely top class. We are still trying to replicate whatever they made in this movie. it's Silence of the Lambs. It's just so well made. And the interesting thing about this movie, and I didn't even realize till I had to write a paper about it, is the cinematographer Tak Fujimoto and Jonathan Demme do something really interesting with the camera work in this film.
Yes, they do.
Because the film's protagonist is Clarice Starling, played brilliantly by Jodie Foster, what they do is they reverse the male gaze. Instead of the camera being the male gaze, they put the male gaze back on the audience. So you're feeling what Clarice is feeling in the scenes when she's being gazed upon by various different men in the movie.
Yeah, I like how they do that. Plus, you're kind of rooting for Clarice, but you do love Hannibal.
Yeah, that's one of those bad guys that, like, even though he's a horrible human being, you just find him so charming and interesting. And part of that's Hopkins' performance. Yeah. Like, if the performance wasn't that good, then you wouldn't find this character interesting. But yeah, you find him not only terrifying, but you're like, oh, I want to know more about him.
Even though he only has 15 minutes of screen time, you always know about his presence.
Yeah, I mean, but the score is so good by Howard Shore. I mean,
he is a genius. Howard Shore is a genius.
I mean, this is still the top of its of serial killer procedurals. This is still considered the best one, and anytime a new one comes out, they try to compare it to this movie, but none of them will ever be quite as good as this one.
Yeah. You ready for my number 4?
Yeah.
So my number 4 was made in the year I was born, 1994. This movie got Tom Hanks' second consecutive Oscar, is known for its quotable dialogue. It's Forrest Gump.
I mean, it's a feel-good movie. It's kind of the perfect. It's the type of movie you think wins Best Picture.
And Tom Hanks plays somebody with learning difficulties really well, and it feels more realistic.
Okay, I guess compared to some other performances, I would say probably yes. I will
probably not as realistic as Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. That's more realistic, I think.
Okay, well, it's definitely better than whatever Sean Penn was doing in I Am Sam.
Yeah, I've never fancied that movie.
I will say that I do prefer Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction over Forrest Gump.
I prefer Pulp Fiction, but I do prefer Shawshank. I do prefer Forrest Gump to Shawshank.
But it's not a bad movie, so it's not like, oh, darn. But, you know, it was a very popular movie, too. It was like one of the highest grossing movies of that year.
Yes. Which probably wasn't starring Jim Carrey at the time.
I mean, it's the ultimate baby boomer nostalgia film too, but you know.
Yeah. So what's your bronze then?
My bronze is probably quintessentially, I know some people will say a certain other movie is probably the greatest Hollywood film ever made. This one's usually number 2, but it's also probably the greatest love story ever made, and it's just such a good movie. It's so much fun. It's so iconic. They talk about wanting to remake it, but please don't ever try to remake this movie. It's perfect just the way it is, and that's Casablanca.
Which is an honorable mention of mine. I love this movie. I rewatched it the other day because it's 80 years old now. And yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I really relate to Rick. I prefer this movie to Citizen Kane. You can't really relate to Kane, but you can relate to Rick. You can go down to his cafe and have a drink with him, and he'll have a good chat with you.
This is definitely more the Hollywood movie. I think Citizen Kane
is more the indie movie, isn't it?
Well, yeah, for 1941, I guess it is an indie movie, but I feel like it is recognized not only just for, I guess, the tenacity of Orson Welles, but also just the techniques that were used at the time hadn't really been used very much in cinema
So
at that point.
It's more the writing in Casablanca and the acting.
Yeah, for sure. I think the script's solid. I think what is that movie? Adaptation. I believe the Brian Cox character says it's the greatest screenplay ever written.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably is. It probably is. There's probably not much.
Chinatown, written by Robert Towns, is probably up there.
That's got to be up there. Yeah, that's brilliant film.
Yeah.
Too bad the director's a schizoid.
Yes, it's a good thing he didn't write the screenplay.
That is also my justification for The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
That he didn't write the screenplay. So I say the brilliance of that film lies on Christopher McQuarrie's screenplay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sam Mendes hasn't done anything bad, right? Because I think American Beauty screenplay is good.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know anything really bad about Sam Mendes. Did he write that screenplay?
No, Alan Ball did, who was a fantastic writer.
Yeah. No, I just don't know how well that movie has aged, considering all the Kevin Spacey stuff and his character in that movie.
Yeah, I think if Sam Mendes didn't direct it, then I probably wouldn't rewatch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my number 3 I love because it's unique, and I think it is the last greatest Best Picture winner. The Artist. I love this movie because it replicates the nostalgic, classic black and white era silent movie in a really, really good style. But the most funny thing about this movie is that it's all a punchline for a joke, and it just lands on its head perfectly. It feels like you're watching an episode of BoJack Horseman, but like if BoJack Horseman was in a silent movie episode. The Artist is well written, well directed, scored perfectly, shot perfectly, and acted perfectly. Yep, this is probably the highest, like, most recent film I have. But it's just a shame these other 2 movies I consider better. What's your opinion on The Artist, Code?
I find The Artist delightful. I don't like it as much as you. I preferred Hugo as far as like the similar story of old.
Yeah.
I also, this movie's very similar to Singing in the Rain.
I love Singing.
Very much. Yeah, that might be the greatest movie musical of all time. I just think there were some stronger films that were up, like Moneyball. I really liked Moneyball a lot, and I can't remember what else. There's a lot that was up that year, but it's not.
Need to talk about Kevin wasn't nominated that year, so that's a fantastic film.
I still have not seen that, but I remember people talking about that being a huge snub, not only for the film but also Tilda Swinton's performance.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I think she's better than Meryl Streep for Thatcher in that movie.
I remember the Margaret Thatcher win being kind of like, why did they give it to Meryl Streep for that? Because I remember people saying it wasn't that good of a movie, and a lot of people were.
I enjoyed it when I watched it last year.
I remember a lot of people saying Viola Davis should have won for The Help.
I probably would have given it to Tilda for We Need to Talk.
But she wasn't nominated.
Well, I would have just pretended she was.
Yeah.
So what's your silver then?
Oh, my silver is a cheat. It's a tie. I'm sorry, but it's just hard for me to say which one is better than the other, because I think what one is doing better, the other one is doing better differently. But if you want to talk about the great American film, I think these 2 films are probably what sums it up, because not only are these movies, they romanticize crime and mafia, because it's not like that, but it's also about.
I know the two you're going to say.
Yeah, and also they do. They're about the American dream, and it's about the rise and fall of Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, which makes him a movie star. But yeah, Francis Ford Coppola's Godfather and Godfather Part 2. I think The Godfather is a brilliant film, but The Godfather 2, it's a sequel and a prequel. Like, as the fall of Michael Corleone is happening, we're learning about the rise of his father's empire. It's just both these movies are brilliant, and yeah, they're amazing movies, and it's kind of wild that they both won Best Picture.
Yeah. Yeah, are you going to rewatch The Godfather for its 50th?
I mean, maybe. That's right. It is coming up on its 50th, and they're doing a TV show, I think, on Paramount Plus about the making of it.
Ooh. Oh, that'd be fun to check out. I will check that out. Are you ready for my number 2?
Let's do it.
This movie is probably the last of its kind, the historical epic, and there is no epic as big as this movie. It's got some incredible dialogue, some fantastic visual effects, some fantastic stunts, brilliant writing, brilliant directing, fantastic acting. It's Ridley Scott's Gladiator.
Almost made my list.
I love this movie. My favorite Ridley Scott movie. It's just been with me through the years. Every time I watch it, I love it. And the best part about it is the gladiator fights and the performances from Phoenix and Crow.
Yeah. This would probably have been like my number 11 or number 12. The only reason I didn't put it on my list because it's not my favorite Ridley Scott film. So I was like, I'll put something else on the list because, yeah, this isn't my favorite Ridley Scott. But it's such a great movie. I love the story. I think this is probably what Russell Crowe's best performance, even though it's more of a physical performance than some of his others. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I love that it's just a revenge story ultimately.
Oh, revenge stories are the best.
And it's got, I think, probably one of the best on-screen movie deaths ever.
Is that Joaquin's character?
No, I think Russell Crowe's Maximus has a beautiful death scene. Like, I think it's one of the best death scenes in a film.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing dying of like being stabbed and then it's your exhaustion would make for a horrible death.
Yeah.
It's just funny in films that the villain dies instantly and the hero dies so slowly.
Well, because you gotta have that heroic, you gotta have that heroic death and that sense of, I did it.
Yeah.
Completion.
Exactly. So what's your favorite Best Picture winner of all time then?
My favorite Best Picture winner is one of my all-time favorite movies from probably my favorite director of all time, and I've been watching more of his movies here lately, and I'm trying to watch more because I just love this guy. He's a very versatile director. He's basically done almost every genre you can think of. He's a brilliant writer. He's great at dialogue and comedy, and he creates one of the weirdest and sweetest films. And this one, Best Picture, it might be one of Jack Lemmon's best performance. It's Billy Wilder's The Apartment.
Nice. Tell me about the Apartment, because I've never seen it before.
Okay, so The Apartment, which I didn't know this was the crux of the idea, but apparently there's a movie David Lean directed called Brief Encounter, which I guess is about all these different married men having affairs or something. But they're using somebody's apartment. So Billy Wilder's like, well, what's that guy's life like? So we talk about a film. Jack Lemmon plays this guy who's trying to move up in his company. And so he allows his supervisors and bosses, the higher-ups, to use his apartment to have affairs with women because most of them are married men. And in the meantime, he falls for a girl who works there as an elevator girl, played by Shirley MacLaine.
Ooh.
Who is having an affair with the CEO, played by Fred MacMurray, which for audiences in 1960 would have been shocked for Fred MacMurray to play such a character because he was known for playing the dad in a sitcom, and he was also known for doing those Disney films, The Absent-Minded Professor. So it was kind of an image thing, like, oh my god. But Fred MacMurray was also the star of Billy Wilder's brilliant noir Double Indemnity, and so it's all about these ups and downs of these three characters, and it's just really well made, and I love it. It's a great movie.
Nice. I'll add that one to the list. I'm looking for more 60s films to watch so I can start doing the 60s series on my website. It's been like very long delayed, so I got a lot of movies to watch.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good movies, and yeah, this is one of my all-time favorites. It might be my favorite Billy Wilder movie, but he also did so many great movies.
Have you seen Sunset Boulevard?
Absolutely, it's great. It's
That's the only Billy Wilder film I've seen so far.
Okay, well, you need to see The Apartment. You need to see Some Like It Hot. You need to see Double Indemnity, and then you can go from there.
Yes, I've tried watching Some Like It Hot, but I must have been tired that night, so I might give it a second chance one day.
You got to. It's got to probably have the best ending line of a movie ever.
Yes, I've heard a lot about the last line. Yes. Are you ready for my number one then?
Yeah, I think I know what it is.
Yeah, you probably already said it. It's Return of the King.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie. It's my favorite movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and what an epic conclusion it was. Okay, granted, I've heard a lot of people say that they don't like it because it's more accurate to the book, but it's a movie and not knowing to adapt every single line of dialogue into a script from the book. And for what Peter Jackson made, this is probably his best movie. I love this movie to pieces. In fact, I think Peter Jackson's best thing about his career is this Lord of the Rings franchise. I don't think he'll get any higher, and The Return of the King is just an epic conclusion. And he could have easily retired after this film.
Well, he sort of kind of had, like, he did go and make King Kong after, but like he hasn't made very many movies since then, other doing the Hobbit trilogy.
And that lovely Bones film I keep meaning to check out.
Yeah, he did that one, and now he's doing documentaries. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what you had to complain about. I think these were as good of an adaptation as you could get to film. I think these are one of the best film adaptations. Yeah, they can't put everything in there. Then it would have been even longer because people complained about how long these movies were. Like,
literally.
But yeah, these movies are brilliant. They're well made. The production design, everything that was put into these movies is unprecedented. And not only for his career, but I don't think we're going to see movies like this ever again to this magnitude.
No, we're not. Well, same with Gladiator and Godfather, and like most movies we've mentioned, nobody makes movies like this anymore, and that's what I love about these movies.
Well, I mean, part of it is people don't want to sit in the theater for that long, and studios don't want to finance movies that long because less showings. And for stuff like Lord of the Rings, now they're going to release that stuff on television so people can be happier because it'll be closer adaptations to the novels because they can stretch it out.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, solid movie.
A brilliant film.
Yes. Do you want to quickly go through these movies?
Yeah, let's count them down.
Let's count them down.
All right, my number 10 was Rocky.
My number 10 was Platoon.
My number 9 was West Side Story.
My number 9 was The Shape of Water.
My number 8 was Clint Eastwood's magnum opus, Unforgiven.
My number 8 was Clint Eastwood's boxing drama, $1 Million Baby.
My number 7 is the epic conclusion to the greatest film trilogy ever made, Return of the King.
My number 7 was Michael Keaton's comeback performance, Birdman.
My number 6 is the first international film to win Best Picture and one of the most brilliant films to be made in the last 10 years. That's Bong Joon-ho's Parasite.
My number 6 is the only horror film to win this award, and it's The Silence of the Lambs.
My number 5 is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
My number 5 is one of the greatest sequels ever, The Godfather Part 2.
My number 4 is the brilliant and well constructed procedural thriller Silence of the Lambs.
My number 4 is a heartwarming Forrest Gump.
My number 3 is possibly the greatest Hollywood and love story film ever made, Casablanca.
My number 3 is a nostalgic trip to the silent film era with The Artist.
My number 2 is Francis Ford Coppola's epic film franchise, The Godfather and Godfather Part 2.
My number 2 is Ridley Scott's epic, the last of its kind, Gladiator.
And my number 1 is Billy Wilder's romantic dramedy that's a New Year's movie and a Christmas movie, but it's just a lovely film, The Apartment.
My number 1 is the grand epic, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
We only had 2 of the same, but that's okay. Oh no, 3. We had 3 of the same.
Was that Lord of the Rings, Godfather Part 2, and Silence of the Lambs?
Mm-hmm. But like I said, I picked like things I really loved, and then I kind of marked things out if like, but the filmmaker had a movie I preferred.
Yeah.
So
out of curiosity, do you have any least favorite Best Picture winners?
I think Crash has got to be at the top of that list.
Yes, and Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah. I mean, but Shakespeare in Love is not a bad movie. It's just
no, it's not a bad. Neither is Crash.
Well, Crash is closer to a bad movie than Shakespeare in Love, but yeah. It's just what it was up against. I mean, like a lot of even some of these, you could probably say, "Oh, I could have seen something else. Probably should have won Best Picture over this." But yeah.
I'm not big on No Country for Old Men. I think There Will Be Blood should have won that year.
Okay, but I still think it's brilliant. I was a little upset about Green Book winning Best Picture. That is definitely not the best movie that was up that year.
Yeah, I wasn't big on Nomadland, but it's still a good movie.
No, that definitely should have went to Promising Young Woman or Minari.
Or The Father.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah. Nomadland wasn't my least favorite of the nominated films last year, though.
Yeah, I get that.
That was The Trial of the Chicago 7.
I like that movie.
I do too, but it's my least favorite one out of the 8 or 9 films that were nominated.
Yeah, I get that. What else? It took me ages to get into The Hurt Locker, but that's quite solid. I'm not a huge Slumdog Millionaire fan either. The Departed's really good.
Yeah, The Departed's really good. It's just that's not Scorsese's best. I think Slumdog Millionaire is a good movie. It's just everyone's butthurt about The Dark Knight not getting nominated, which is why the Academy extended its film list. But what it was up against, I can't think of anything like that should have beat it. Maybe Curious Case or Frost Nixon, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think now. Some of the 80s and 70s ones are a bit weird.
Yeah, they are, but I haven't seen.
I'm surprised that Annie Hall won over Star Wars. How's the rom-com win over a sci-fi epic?
Because of the Academy, because it was mostly older white dudes, and it's still mostly older white dudes, but they always kind of turn their nose at genre. I mean, I also recently watched Ordinary People for the first time last year, and while it's nowhere as well directed as Raging Bull, I can see why it won Best Picture over it, because it's like one of the first movies to like really take mental illness and portray it in a realistic and serious manner instead of making the character like a axe murderer or something.
Yeah.
So I can see why at the time it won Best Picture over Raging Bull.
Yeah. Some of them are a bit odd.
Oh, I'll say my probably biggest one is probably Fargo should have won over The English Patient.
Yes, although I loved English Patient, I love Fargo even more.
And then Driving Miss Daisy shouldn't have won Best Picture. They should have nominated Do the Right Thing, but they didn't even nominate it.
Yes, Do the Right Thing. Everybody needs to watch Do the Right Thing.
But the Academy's famous for this all the time. I mean, and even when Moonlight and Shape of Water won, people were like, "Oh, it's over. They're gonna finally like be nominating movies that are more with the times or more with that is saying something." No, they gave Green Book Best Picture over Black Panther or Black Klansman.
Oh, I thought Roma was going to win.
Yeah, a lot of people thought Roma was going to win for sure, which is weird. Poor Cuarón has won 2 Best Directing Oscars, but not Best Picture.
Same with Ang Lee.
Oh, and that's right, because everyone thought Brokeback Mountain was going to win the year Crash won. And then,
Ben Affleck didn't get nominated, so I think
Ben Affleck did. Yeah. What was I gonna? Oh, I do have a correction to make from our Razzies recording. There have been 6 black directors nominated for Best Director. I forgot that Lee Daniels, Barry Jenkins, and Steve McQueen have been nominated as well, alongside Jordan Peele, Spike Lee, and John Singleton.
Yeah, they're all great directors in their own way.
Yeah, Lee Daniels is okay.
He's the weakest out of the 6.
Yeah, the rest of them are pretty good. It's just sad that John Singleton's last movie was a Taylor Lautner action movie or whatever that guy's name is from Twilight.
Yeah, out of the 3 of them, he's had the worst career since Twilight.
Well, that's because he's the worst actor out of the 3.
Yeah.
Because Pattinson and Stewart are actually pretty good actors. They just were in bad movies, but it made them rich. It made them to do all these weird movies they do now.
Yeah, still not since Spencer.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's a little dull as far as like there's not really a lot of plot, but it's mostly for her performance.
A bit like Jackie.
I would assume I haven't seen Jackie, but I hear
Jackie's really good.
So I wonder what next historical female figure he's going to tackle.
I hope it's Queen Boadicea.
He's got to do a trilogy now.
Yeah, so I hope it's Queen Boadicea, the Celtic warrior.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. Right, thank you for joining me today for this very special episode. Me and Justin are doing best foreign films next week.
Oh, wow. Whew.
But we're doing one per country to make it easier.
Okay. I was like, how do you narrow that down? How many countries are you going to?
I'm just picking my top 5.
Okay, top 5 makes sense.
What's your favorite foreign language film? I'm not going to reveal mine until next week.
God, oh man, it's probably a Kurosawa film. Probably.
Is it Rashomon?
No, it would probably be either Seven Samurai or which is so basic, or High and Low.
Nice. Rashomon's my favorite Kurosawa film.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How film schooly of you, but cool.
It's because I like the last duel kind of storytelling.
Oh, you like all the different perspectives of the scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really well done how he does that, and that's also the film that kind of made Japanese cinema popular outside of Japan.
Nice. And what a film to do so.
Yeah. So that's
a bit like how Parasite's made other international films popular outside their country.
Yeah, we got another international film up for Best Picture, which is also, I haven't seen it, but from what I hear, it's a weird one to be up for Best Picture because it's not like a genre film like Parasite or Crouching Tiger. It's like a 3-hour movie about them doing a Chekhov play.
I'll give it a go still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I think that's about it for today. All right. Thank you for joining me today, Cody, and I'll see you very soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a good day.
And I'll have you back at some point, and I'll make a little appearance on your show as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Take care, Cody.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.